Ashton Gentis and DeAndre Swift's stock is looking up while Johnathan Taylor's and Joe Mixon's is trending down. We discuss why in today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You can either download the FanDuel app or head over to FanDuel.com today to get started. We are going to do a stock watch episode today for running backs. We're going to discuss 3 running backs whose stock is looking up as of Friday, March 14th, and then 3 running back stock that's looking down after first week of free agency. So I think right off the bat, we still don't know, obviously, where this rookie's going to go, Ashton Gentis, but we have to say his stock is up at the moment because there's still a lot of teams that need a starting running back that are just kind of that they didn't go out and sign a guy. There wasn't a lot of good options in free agency already, but like the Steelers, the Broncos, the Raiders, they're all looking for, a guy that can handle a full big workload. And Ashton Gentis is going to have a lot of teams looking his way in the first round this year.
Yeah, and the Cowboys, even with the Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders additions, there's not a lot there, right? They're limited backup. Sanders was basically the number 3 with Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard last year. Williams, just a flyer, just to have somebody there just in case it doesn't work out in free agency. I think they wanted to bring back Rico Dowdle. It's kind of interesting. Dowdle goes from the Cowboys to the Panthers. Miles Sanders goes from the Panthers to the Cowboys. That doesn't say that they're off a running back at number 12 or overall. The Raiders are not going to be locked into a quarterback anymore at number 6, so they come into play later in the round to get the Broncos and Steelers in that order. The Chiefs might be looking for a running back as well. I know they added Elijah Mitchell. I don't know if that's going to hold up, but you look at the situation, it's really good for Gentis. I think Broncos and Steelers would seem to be the ideal landing spots for him, and Amari and Hampton. Don't forget about him. Potentially in the first round. I don't know if both are going to go in the first round. I could also see a scenario where one of these teams, more likely the Broncos than the Steelers, might move up a few picks to take Gentis. So I'm thinking that's right now the team that I'm watching for the most because they pick ahead of the Steelers. I don't know if the Raiders want to go there, go get a receiver, and Ted McMillan, they're at number 6. Do they want to pair Geno Smith with somebody, giving that they need him to have a number 1 receiver? And we have Brock Bowers and what Jacoby Myers can do, but you need a little bit more there. So it all lines up. Maybe Denver and Pittsburgh are the 2 teams I'm circling a lot. I mean, they're 2 playoff teams from last year. They are pretty good offenses right now in their state, and the Steelers need to find a quarterback. That's going to be a big deal. But the Broncos, I think, would be a great landing spot. But either way, the volume is going to be high, it looks like, for Ashton Gentis as a rookie, wherever he lands in the first round, and he might not need to deal with all that much competition.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of landing spots for him and a lot of good ones. And we didn't, like you mentioned Dallas. That's where he's been mocked in many, many mock drafts, right? And just because they added Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, like that's not going to keep them from doing that. And we wouldn't be worried about those additions. So going into free agency, we're like, okay, definitely Dallas seems like the hot spot where he could land. But now he has so many good options out there still. That he's going to find a good landing spot unless like a team just wants to break our hearts and do like a wild card. Like if the Cardinals were to draft him, that one might sting, right? Because James Conner would steal a lot of work. But for now, it looks like he's going to land in a very favorable spot where he's going to get a huge workload. On the opposite side, though, to do a running back whose stock is going down, it has to be Johnathan Taylor for the moment. It's not like he's going to lose touches, right? They haven't added anyone that they're going to lose. Khalil Herbert's not going to take his workload away, but he's lost blockers on the offensive line in center Ryan Kelly and guard Will Freeze. And then the quarterback situation, I guess it's going to be Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson at competition. And Daniel Jones is sadly the better quarterback among the two. So he's likely to win, and I just don't know. I don't necessarily think like this kills Johnathan Taylor. It's just not really the upgrades we were hoping for his ceiling in fantasy this year.
Yeah, and we're talking about RB1, so you're talking about the top 12, and Genty just seems like a lot more of an appealing pick than Johnathan Taylor at this very moment because of where he might land and seeing the fresh legs and getting an opportunity to carry the ball a lot. Again, these linemen were no joke to lose them. I mean, these are two very good interior blockers, and they both went to Minnesota. We'll talk about them and what that will do with Aaron Jones a little bit later in the show. But yeah, you lose two blockers, it's significant. Like this team is also maybe going to be stuck with a bad offense again. If it's Jones in there, so less scoring opportunities. And we know Jones can also run, so that can cut into some things as well as Richardson's running. So it's not a buzzy offense at the moment. Now, things may change. They chose to invest more on defense so far. Charvarius Ward is their big addition, as well as Cam Bynum. So they went after cornerback and safety. So didn't really do a lot except to add Jones in a competition with Richardson. So I don't know. The Colts vibes are just not great to me. Like, I'm just not feeling it with this team. I don't know if Shane Steichen will be under fire. Probably will be. I mean, he's had a couple years now. I think they need to show some results. If he can't fix Richardson, that's going to be a thing. So I don't think the Colts are going to be a very good team. I think wherever Genty lands up is going to be a good team. And if it's the Raiders, we know he's just going to get volume. And I think that team could be improved. But the Steelers and Broncos are playoff teams from last year, where I think Taylor is going to be stuck on a bad Colts team once again here in 2025.
Yeah, when your options are Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, you're just probably not going to have a very good season. And maybe Richardson takes a massive step forward in his third year. He still has only started 15 games, so not even a full season of games played in the NFL. He barely had any starts in college either. He was supposed to come in super raw. But I do think the way that the Colts have kind of tried to build him up has not worked at all, and their process was just not great. Like, I don't know why they ever drafted him if they didn't have a good plan. So it looks like Daniel Jones might be taking his job, and that's just never good for an offense. And Johnathan Taylor's ability to score touchdowns this upcoming year, if it is Daniel Jones back there. So definitely falling down a little bit. We're going to get into a couple more guys that are trending up and trending down right after we take a quick break. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. There's definitely a lot of great underdogs that you can get in on FanDuel, and FanDuel makes it very easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. And the FanDuel app is simple to use. And when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right. This next guy who's trending up, I think he's trending up greatly at the moment. Now, the draft could ruin it. It has to be DeAndre Swift. I mean, we've been talking up this Bears offense, right? We're excited to see what Caleb Williams can do in year 2. We're excited to see what Roma Dunze can do in year 2. And DeAndre Swift is sitting back there like he still owns his backfield. They haven't added anyone. And what they've done for this offensive line, trading for 2 guards in Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, which will be massive upgrades to what they have. And then signing the top center in free agency and Drew Dahlman from the Falcons. They already had 2 good young tackles in Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. It was that middle of their offensive line that was so incredibly bad, right? They fix it up in one offseason. They bring in Ben Johnson, and he's going to know how to utilize running backs. We've already seen it. So DeAndre Swift, unless they draft one of these top 3 running backs in this draft class early, he's going to have to be ranked top, 15 this year, top 20?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the situation, I guess, though, one thing that can ruin it, the Bears get aggressive and go get Genty. There's a potential of that. Maybe try to do the 1-2 punch, try to recreate Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, only with these 2 guys in different roles. So let's watch that. But right now, Swift is looking really good. I think this offense in general is going to be better to use his skill set as a receiver. So that's good. and you can get into the open field and use his strengths, and that's the speed and quickness, right? And he's also a good power back when he gets the opportunity. So interior is going to be better. I still think they could look to upgrade the tackles. I know they like Wright, so I think it would be more that if they look at Jones, there is a person in the wheelhouse of that first round pick to Kelvin Banks that they could draft, and they could get 4 new starters up there that really change the face of this offense. And so I'm really excited about Swift just in general. I mean, you get any running back to get Thuney and Jonah Jackson and Dahlman all together. I mean, that's going to be great for any running back, and any running back who doesn't have those guys is going to take a little bit of a hit. So I do like that combination. Again, everything with the Bears is trending upward. Every interview you have with Ben Johnson, you're impressed. Everything you hear that they're doing, they're talking about, the way they're kind of operating everything just seems to be pointing in a positive direction. It's almost like the anti-Colts, right? Everything is there. New hire, new buzz, quarterback on the rise. Everything's there. And if they score more and they produce more and they throw to the back more, Swift is going to have a big year running and receiving.
I was not at all on DeAndre Swift entering, this offseason. But right now they're making all the right moves, and he's sitting there in the backfield as the lead guy. So he definitely will become much more interesting if they don't draft one of those running backs early. Now, another running back that stock is down is Joe Mixon with the Texans. The Texans, I don't know what they're doing this offseason, right? Their offensive line was really, really bad last year, but the one great guy still is Laremy Tunsil, but they traded him away to Washington. So, okay, you lose the one good piece on your line. But they also lose their starting guard, Kenyon Green. They traded him to the Eagles. So they're trading away pieces of their offensive line. Well, they added Laken Tomlinson, fine, at guard. They traded for Ed Ingram, fine. But it's not like those are upgrades, right? So it's not looking great. And we can also say, this is obviously bad for a running back and Joe Mixon, who's aging too and has never been super efficient. It's also not good for CJ Stroud either, right? It's just not good for this whole offense in general, which means probably less scoring for the team and less opportunities. I mean, Joe Mixon got so many of his fantasy points last year when he was able to get into the end zone a bunch, but it's not like he was just ripping off these long runs left and right to give you this production. So it's definitely a worry for him moving forward.
Yeah, we don't want to pick on these AFC South running backs, but I think you have to look at what it is. And Houston and Indianapolis have not done their offense favors so far this offseason. I mean, I think they've done a great job loading up on defensive players. So D'Amico Ryans can be happy. The Colts can be happy with Lou Anarumo. They're getting those guys taken care of. But offensively, there are some questions all around here, and just the nature and production of these offenses. And the Texans, again, are the same way you look at the Colts, except a couple of changes, right? Stroud is a lot more reliable than Anthony Richardson. He's not going to have competition. You have a number one receiver there where you have multiple guys, probably Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce trying to fight for the job. But here you have Nico Collins. You don't have a lot else. You have the safety attention that could go to Collins. I don't think Christian Kirk is necessarily a needle mover to stretch the field in any way. So you look at that and it could be compressed for this offense. Collins may not be able to get deep. If it's compressed, that means the running game is not going to do all that well with Mixon. The Texans, again, they were so high up here. But now I think it's opening the door for these other teams. The Jaguars and Titans can get some things together with their offenses and some changes they've made there. And then we're going to look at maybe a little bit of different offensive production, what teams we trust. So I think the Texans, again, you're right. Stroud, not great. Collins, so far, not great because he's going to see some double teams on the outside. And now you have not a good development for Mixon, and he's also getting older. So all that says a red flag here for year 2 of Mixon producing in Houston.
It's crazy because last offseason it was looking like they're one of the offenses that were really going to shine and keep growing right after Stroud's great rookie season and how electric they looked. But this might be an offense we're just totally staying away from this year because it's not like you're going to get good values on Nico Collins or Joe Mixon. And CJ Stroud probably won't be drafted, or if he is, he'll be late, but you're not going to want him because he's just not. He didn't do anything for fantasy last year, and they haven't done enough to make you feel confident that that's going to happen this upcoming year. So this might be an offense we're staying away from, which was not something that we would have expected a year ago today. We have two more guys to get to, one whose stock is up, one whose stock is down. We will get to that right after a quick break.
This episode, Locked On Fantasy Football, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place so you can stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. There's all kinds of things that you can get along with Monarch Money while you're taking care of your budget. Surprising insights there and how to invest and where to budget best, all in one convenience. You can put it all together there instead of juggling multiple apps. You can check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And there's easy collaboration tools as well. So you can manage money with your partner simpler than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. It's very easy to take control of your finances. Just go to Monarch Money. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com/LOCKEDONNFL. Code LOCKEDONNFL either way for half off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com. All right, time to close the show and look at one more guy who's up, one more guy who's down. And Aaron Jones, he's kind of ranked right now as RB24. He finished as RB18. This is in half-point PPR. I think this might be selling him short because those two blockers we talked about with the Colts, Freeze and Kelly, they joined the Vikings, and the Vikings have upgraded their offensive line. So Aaron Jones is re-signed. He looks like the lead back. They haven't brought back Cam Akers yet. So this could really line up for Aaron Jones getting those feature touches we saw in Green Bay.
Yeah, it really does. And he was already running back 20 in points per game last year. So he was already valued pretty. It was a good value heading in to this offseason already. And then they add the offensive lineman. But then also, I do think the change at quarterback could help him too, because Sam Darnold threw a lot of touchdowns last year, right? Like 30 touchdowns. That stole a lot of touchdowns from Aaron Jones getting them. He only had 5 touchdowns on the season with 1,500 scrimmage yards. 1,500 scrimmage yards is fantastic. The fact he did that at his age, like he still has it. It's just he needs to score more touchdowns. With JJ McCarthy back there, typically quarterbacks in their first year, he's not going to put up 30 touchdowns, right? They're going to be leaning on the running game more when they get around the end zone because they have a young quarterback that they're not going to want to put the hands in and ask him to do too much. So I do expect Aaron Jones to get more opportunities around the goal line, which will be huge for him. He could be a massive value this year, Aaron Jones. Again, not a guy going into this offseason I thought I was going to be high on this year. But after, how free agency is going and how the signings are going and what's going on with the Vikings, I think he might be on a lot of my teams come 2025.
Yeah, you mentioned the touchdown. He has that 20 touchdown potential. I'm not saying he's going to get there, but we've seen it before with the Packers in younger days when he was the guy. And look, there's another rumor floating out there that if JJ McCarthy gives them any doubt, they might go after Aaron Rodgers as a bridge quarterback. This is maybe not what Vikings quarterbacks wanted to, or people of Vikings fame and fans wanted to hear, right? I mean, this is the history repeating itself with Brett Favre going from Jets to Vikings once again. I don't think Packers fans want to hear that either, but it could happen. And then we know that Rodgers and Jones had a good chemistry working together when they played off each other. And the year that Jones scored a lot was playing off Rodgers and more letting him kind of be the complimentary guy in that offense in Green Bay. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to say that's going to happen. I don't think that affects the opinion of Jones for me all that much. If it's McCarthy again, they should lean on the run a little bit more, take pressure off the rookie a little bit. That's why I think they upgraded the offensive line, right? They don't want to be as pass happy as they have been with Kevin O'Connell. So have it progress naturally, run, set it up, play action, get it downfield to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Different type of offense that you might see here, a little bit more balanced. And that's also going to help Aaron Jones this year.
And then one last guy whose stock is down, it has to be Isaiah Pacheco. It's already been going down, right? Especially what we saw from him last year. It just, when he came back from injury, he didn't look the same. He got a lot of work taken away from Kareem Hunt. And we assume they're going to add a running back in the draft at some point. They add Elijah Mitchell in free agency. And you might say, okay, well, that's a pointless signing. It's not if he can stay healthy, and we don't know if he can or not, right? The Elijah Mitchell's whole thing is he can't stay on the field, but when he is healthy, I think he's a better running back than Isaiah Pacheco. He's extremely fast. We've seen him put together good games because he is so dynamic that I think that the Chiefs would really like adding him to their offense if he's able to stay healthy. And then also going in there at the end of last year, a big issue was that they needed to upgrade their offensive line, right? That was their plan coming into this offseason, or at least we thought it was going to be. But instead, all they've done is trade away their all-pro guard and Joe Thuney instead of upgrading. Now, I know they needed to get cheaper, but that's also a downgrade for him. And who knows how early they're going to draft a running back. So Isaiah Pacheco, I just really don't think he's going to have much value come, when we're drafting in September.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell is a kind of sneaky signing for them because he gives them that quickness, open field that they had a while back. I mean, I'm not saying it's like Jerick McKinnon part 2 or what you're looking at with even Damian Williams, right? But their potential to have that guy is a change of pace, and that could cut in to those touches that Pacheco has kind of dominated. He's kind of disappointed when he's had the opportunity to be a receiver and be on the field for 3 downs. It's not kind of his bag, I don't think. He's more of a power back. You play him on early downs. You try to work him in the red zone. But Mitchell's also been very good and explosive for the 49ers when he's been able to stay on the field. So I think Mitchell is a sneakier threat to this workload than we think, especially with Kareem Hunt in limbo and not really being considered to be brought back here. Again, Michelle's right. They could definitely draft a back here. And look, we'll see how Jalen Moore works out. I mean, it was a bit of a surprise that they went after 49ers, pretty much a swing backup guy to be their new left tackle. So that's a bit of an experiment, right? Much like it was with Johnathan Taylor, Orlando Brown Jr., some of these guys that they shuffled in at tackle. It's always been a little bit dicey, right? So yeah, I think Thuney's going to be a big loss. At least they're able to keep Trey Smith or Creed Humphrey, but I think it's more on Pacheco than anything else. Like, yeah, the elements around him have been different, but Pacheco himself just doesn't inspire after the way he went down last season with the injuries and needing to go with Hunt and then now bringing in Mitchell.
Yeah, and his running style is just kind of one of those that gets worn down pretty fast. So it was fun ride while it lasted, but I don't think we're going to see too much fantasy value from Pacheco moving forward. That is it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Listening to us on your podcast app, leave us a review, give us that 5 stars if you're so kind. It just helps us grow and be here for you every day to win your fantasy football leagues. We will be back on Monday talking more fantasy football goodness. Have a great weekend. Bye, y'all.